Welcome back to EC Arts. I'm thrilled to welcome my guest today, Shawki Youssef, a Lebanese artist with experience across multiple media, recently focusing on painting and drawing. The tense, tormented bodies that appear in his artworks reflect the impact of emotional trauma and oppression on the human body. Through anonymous dislocated figures, Youssef captures a collective human struggle, an observation of societies living under constant pressure of violence and war. A teacher at several universities for over 3 decades, his work is part of major collections including the Barjil Art Foundation and the Salsali Private Museum. Shawki, welcome to EC Arts. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Pleasure is mine.
Shawki, the body plays a central role in your practice. Why this approach?
Because it's a line. It's just a line that can be somehow figurative in a sense. You recognize it as being a body, but it's never about the appearance. So if the body is the subject matter is what's happening to this body as you're seeing behind you or around us. I think what matters in the work is sort of relation to distance to the body. So the body itself as being some sort of collective body from memory. It was never by model, never drew models. It's like reminding bodies or something like that. And to an extent where you get to make a close-up with it, and maybe the body itself, the texture itself, the work itself became some sort of skin or some sort of. So there's always body, but the presence of it is never about it only, or about sexuality only, or about pain, or about. The body itself is a tool with which we tell our stories in quite difficult region.
Beyond this abstraction, what does this absence of the body mean to you?
As I said before, maybe
some sort of
insignificance,
maybe after everything we went through.
Maybe at one point you don't want to say anymore that this is an expressive body that have some sort of discourse. You will say the drawing itself, the line itself, the paint itself, the violence itself with which this or that work is produced, the delicacy itself is what really matters. So somehow the recognizable appearance of things disappears, but in favor of going even deeper in the main issue of painting, which is painting itself as a tool to somehow comment on harsh realities, or to get away from harsh realities also.
Shawki, your work is quite experimental. You're experimenting with different tools such as cutter. You're even using sheets at a certain point. Tell us more about the process.
I belong to a tradition that believes that's process-based work, and I think it's always relates to the time space I'm in. So today is different than yesterday, and if today's necessitates a different response, and what I have before is not able to bring this response, I keep on experimenting till I find a way with which I'm convinced that this might help some sort of response. Like my last work was after my last show at Saleh, 5 sides but only 1 entrance. I was really repulsed by stretched white canvases. They looked structured, and the whole country looked like completely on its knees. We had all of these stories together. So I was repulsed by it, and I tried to find something like a little bit more adequate to the particular moment we're in. Hence this work came, which is a questioning about fragility, a questioning about control. And I think this game, control and fragility, shows itself from the beginning. What to show, what to hide, how much to show, how able we are to show anything.
Shawki, in your last solo show, the space itself or the canvas feels like skin. At what moment did the canvas stop being a support and start becoming the body itself?
Precisely, the idea is that after COVID explosion, money theft, all of these stories that we lived together, for once maybe the personal experience was no longer personal. It was like a collective one. That's why I think people identified with the work itself. And as I said before, the stretched canvas had so much structure to it. And you know, artists and designers and people, like, they have some sort of star or some sort of light they need to follow to go there. And I think we're left with rubble, we're left with mess, what to do with it. So I caught some sort of relation to art history, and I had these bed sheets and all of these sheets that are really fragile. And I said, like, maybe I have to work with this very fragility itself and what to do with it. And they were torn, and then I had to fix them, and they were, so the process itself was somehow parallel to what we keep on encountering in this country, where we keep on having these cycles of violence and peace and violence. This is when you concentrate on the sheet itself, and you know it's not prepared, so it might seep through, it gives you a different results. I felt like that's a good answer right now, because it's out of my control, and the paintings, some part of them will look like as if not touched by a person, and by an artist, or by a hand. And then sometimes I would bring a fold from the other side to remind our little ability to somehow forget, or to somehow affect the state of things.
As you mentioned before, it's a bit harsh, aggressive, but at the same time, there's the subtle sweetness to it. How do you balance between these two extremes?
I think without this possibility of tension created between extremes, the work wouldn't be good. So it's all here, it's all around us. I mean, maybe there's no much light on very simple, basic, beautiful things that takes place, but at the same time they're here, and we live in these bubbles, not only violent and crime and selling the catastrophe we're in, but we live our lives. We love, we have kids, we have our struggles, and we put them together. Why not?
Shawki, I'd like to go back to the technique because it's very interesting. You mentioned that you use a cutter to create certain outlines of the body, or perhaps elements of the body, but then you're adding paint to it. And it almost ends up looking like a certain landscape or nature.
It does.
Do you feel like there's this relation between the body and nature?
The cutter game came from a certain necessity to involve viewers. We're painting in a place where people were allowed to come in. I thought of a way to involve them. So, you know, you do the drawing on a thick paper, then the visitor will take the brush and put the color, and it's like a little bit like analog photography. So the drawing will develop front of them, because the slits will take the color, darker colors. I would see the drawing as being drawn with one stroke. And this was the idea behind it. And at the same time, while doing this, notice that it depends on the color. The color, if you put green, you're no longer with a portrait, you're with something else. If you and depends on my drawing itself. If it's a little bit more abstracted, so drawing a body, but not necessarily drawing it as it is, but borrowing lines out of it, tripping on parts of it, repeating these lines. So yeah, to have this ability to play also, again, on this game of how much do we see, how much we don't, because on the whole rest of the work, if there's no paint involved, it's not, you won't be able to see it. You won't be able to see the previous work with the cutter. So it presented some sort of chance to wonder about this visibility of things. And I think in the last, few techniques, I keep on coming and going back, but The technique itself is not important. It's what really matters is what the ability of this technique to answer some sort of necessity in that particular time space. Keep on telling my students that, yeah, subjectivity is there because we're there, but also without context, art is not worth it. Without some sort of discourse with history of art, because things been done, been visited, but not in 2026 because it's the first time we're in this year. Not in Lebanon because it's the first time Lebanon is in 2026. So what we try to do is like use these techniques, use these methods, use these processes in order to produce a work that somehow able to embody some sort of experience.
And do you ever revisit your paintings?
Always. Always. You better take them away from me, so instead I'm gonna ruin them.
Mm-hmm. And Shawki, over the past 3 decades, you've only had a few solo shows. 3, I believe. Correct?
Yeah.
Why?
I think the solo show should bring some sort of proposition with it, some sort of a result of a certain also search or process or something. Bring that with it. And I didn't think it was necessary to repeat exhibiting the same product I'm doing. Therefore, I'm a little bit harsh on myself. But now I hope I'm going to be doing a show every 3 years or something like that.
Are you working on an upcoming show?
Yeah, hopefully in next autumn at my gallery with Saleh Barakat, at Saleh Barakat's gallery.
What will it focus on?
Left to see. It's a process work.
Thank you so much, Shawki, for being with us on the show.
Thanks, Lea. That's lovely.
It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Imagine walking into a gallery and seeing 32 cans of soup lined up like groceries on a shelf. That's exactly what Andy Warhol did in 1962 with Campbell's soup cans. Warhol once said, "I used to drink it. I had the same lunch every day for 20 years, same thing over and over again." That simple everyday habit sparked one of the most iconic works of pop art. At first glance, these paintings look like mass-produced advertisements. But there's a twist. They're hand-painted right down to the small fleur de lis at the bottom of each can, which Warhol hand-stamped himself. He repeated the same image across 32 canvases, mimicking the rhythm of advertising, yet introduced subtle variations in the lettering and labels, making the series all the more intriguing. By turning something ordinary into art, Warhol challenged the way we look at everyday objects. And that's the genius of Warhol, reminding us that art is everywhere, sometimes in the most unexpected places. That's it for today's episode. Until next time.